To the 9th session of the Mindmine Summit. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed group of panelists, Dr. Pramath Sinha, founder, Ashoka University. Welcome, sir. Up next, we have Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, Chairman, Manipal Global Education. Welcome, sir. Up next, we have Mr. Mihir J. Doshi, Managing Director and Country CEO, Credit Suisse, India. Welcome, sir. Up next, we have Mr. Narayanan Ramaswamy, Partner and National Lead for Education, KPMG, India. Welcome. And we have our moderator, Mr. Rajendra Srivastava, Dean ISB. Welcome, sir. Can we have a much bigger round of applause? As we're about to start with the 9th session, gentlemen, please take your seats. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. The panelists have already been introduced, and between the five of us, I think we've got about 200. Can you hear me now? Okay. Between the five of us, we probably have about 200 years of experience in education. I mean, I'm admitting my age, maybe the other guys are not. So, we have a very engaging topic. When I look at education in India, do we have the ingredients? We come from a history of thought leadership. We go back to Nalanda, Takshila. We've been there, we've done that. If I look at the students from India, there are about 300,000 going abroad, and more would go abroad to seek education if they had the resources. Do the parents care? Yes, they care. The aspiration is high. Do we have faculty? Yes, we do, but many of them are roaming around the world, including yours truly, who just came back. And if we look at what's going to happen to this country down the line, education has to be a centerpiece. We talk about the youth dividend, the demographic dividend, but that demographic dividend is not going to be realized unless we invest in education and unless we literally leapfrog the way education is administered, not only in India, but globally. So if I look at the ingredients are students, the faculty, the resources, working under the cover of public policy, and looking at, for example, the role of industry, the private sector, in making all of this happen. So if I look at a company like Infosys, they have a training facility of over 25,000, that accommodates about 25,000 students that they've taken from the colleges, and they are upskilling them, retraining them. So there is investment from the private sector also. So setting that as the background, what I would like to do is for a panelist to address two questions. One is really the topic. Is excellence in education, is an Indian Ivy League possible? The second question really is, what can we do to leapfrog? Okay, this is setting a higher goal. What can we do to really leapfrog? Is it leveraging technology? Is it looking at multidisciplinarity? How do we leapfrog education globally? I'll start with Pramath Sinha. He's been the founding dean of my school, the Indian School of Business. He's also the founder and trustee of Ashoka University. So Pramath, you've been there, done that, and your aspirations are high. So we'll start with you.
Thank you, Raj. It's very humbling to be on a panel with such illustrious people. And when you said 200, I started feeling really old. I'll just quickly answer the two questions. Firstly, the answer to the question, which is the topic, is absolutely yes. I think if we don't literally compare ourselves to the Ivy League, which is, 250-year-old institutions in the United States, but really think about, can we create the Ivy League of the future out of India? I absolutely believe that is possible. In fact, amongst our own circles, we kind of joke about the new Banyan League that is getting created in India, which is sort of our own version of the Ivy League. And I think some of the institutions that are represented here and in the room are all trying to create institutions of excellence. But without speaking in general terms, I'd like to just allude to a few things on what has happened at ISB as well as at Ashoka and what is possible. As some of you may know, in literally 7 years from its inception, ISB became one of the top 20 MBA programs in the world. While our rankings have dropped a little bit over the years, the fact is that we are still rated as one of the top programs in the world, certainly one of the top private program in India, definitely. The largest program, one of the largest programs in the world with 840 graduates every year. Our graduates are all over the world, several of them becoming CEOs, several of them becoming very successful entrepreneurs. We have 250 students out in Silicon Valley who run companies such as WhatsApp and Uber and so on. So I think and ISB is just 15 years old. If you look at what's happening at Ashoka, again, I feel that the quality of students and faculty that we are getting, just a quick statistic, this year we have 3 of our alums from the Young India Fellowship Program joining Harvard Business School. We have students from Ashoka within 5 years joining all of the Ivy League in postgraduate programs, including Princeton and Yale and Stanford and Berkeley and so on for PhD programs. And of course, they've all gone to the usual suspects of top companies in India, whether it is the consulting firms or the banks and so on. Now, there are really 2 things that make these great institutions what they are, and they are students and faculty. If you look at the raw talent that is available in our students in our country, it's quite staggering. I know we keep saying that, but I've seen that over the last 15, 20 years in the students that have gone to ISB and those that are coming to Ashoka. It's absolutely staggering to see what our students are capable of. And I read some of the applications for the last 2 days. I've been doing interviews, and I cannot believe that these are 18, 20-year-olds that are doing what they're doing. Similarly, if you look at faculty, Raj is a great example. He's come back after, 30 years, 40 years outside India. We just had a person join Ashoka who was tenured at Stanford University and gave up tenure to move to Ashoka to teach English literature. We have a philosophy professor at Ashoka who was teaching temporarily at Harvard and was given an offer to stay on permanently and chose not to take that and is working at Ashoka, and he's a Englishman and not an Indian. So the trends are all there. The writing is there on the wall. We can absolutely do this. I think our biggest problem is the regulatory environment in which we operate. I'm not going to talk about that because we've beaten that to death over the years, and this is not a bitch session about how bad it is. Everybody knows that. But really, I think we have to free things up to create the Indian Ivy League. I think the new policy in the budget of doing these 10 in public and 10 private institutions is something that I've been personally working on, and I think that's a great step in the right direction. So I think I can talk more about that, but let me just quickly get to the second question and answer it, that I am very concerned that this is actually, if you look at the topic of the conference, the wrong question to ask. Because of course we can create the Indian Ivy League, but I think the question is what is happening to the general masses that we have to educate. There are 25 million people being born in this country every year. The people who go to the Ivy Leagues when they get created in India will take care of themselves, and they generally fend for themselves. Yeah, there are enough institutions, they'll go abroad, they'll go to the existing institutions, somehow they'll manage. But it's really the question of the remaining, and I go back to the 25 million odd people. If you look at GERs around the world, then we have to approximately have about, if you assume 60%, you have to have at least 15 million people go through higher education every year, enter higher education every year in this country. That's roughly about 60, 70 million people should be in the higher education system every year. I don't think we as a human race have ever faced this magnitude and scale of challenge of educating people in schools and colleges. There, I think India will have to innovate and come up with solutions, because there are no ready-made solutions. Technology is part of the answer. Creating legions of teachers is part of the answer. Making sure that each one of us spends 4 hours every week teaching a course in some institution somewhere is part of the answer. And we can talk more about some of these.
Thanks, Pramath. Maybe I'll change the first question from the Ivy League issue to how do we get scale and excellence? Sure. Okay, because scale is absolutely critical. So with that, we'll pass the baton.
I would like to take on from where Pramath come. I think it's a very serious problem. First, I think we are facing a demographic disaster. It's already on, and things are going to get worse. There are 100 million young people in the age group of 21 to 35 who are underemployed or unemployed, largely in the northern belt. You see them in the Gujarat agitation, you see them in the, the Patel agitation, the Kama agitation in North Andhra Pradesh. You also see them in this, other classes, whatever you have here. I think the major problem. In the next 10 years, we're going to have another 100 million come up with a bad education, with no ability to get jobs, and we're going to have 200 million people in the age group of 21 to 40 by 2025. And this is going to be a major challenge, and that demographic disaster that's already on, and it's going to get worse. Let's be very clear about it. We are to face this. There's no demographic dividend, because they're the great unwashed masses with a bad education. And let me give you this. We need data to look at the scale. We have 3 crore young people in colleges. We have 850 universities, 47,000 colleges. Our gross enrollment rate is 23%. And it's very indifferent all around the country. Tamil Nadu has got 43% GER. The whole of the South has got about 30% GER. The East has got 15%. The North has got 18%. The West is somewhere 20, 22%. So it's very indifferent all over. And enrollment is growing at 6%. Pramath and we in FICCI wrote a report. And I think you should read the report. It gives you all this rich data. And we believe, looking at where we're going, by 2030, we'll have 7 crore young people with a gross enrollment rate of 50% in college. And every year, we have 2.4 crore young people attaining the age of majority, because we produced 2.5 crore babies 20 years ago. Every year for the last 30 years, we've been producing 2.5 crore babies. 10 lakh of them are going to die before they reach the age of 5, so 2.4 crore are going to attain the age of majority. Or maybe 30% could probably get married or not want a job or go into agriculture. Agriculture has 52% of India's population today. So 70% require jobs or gainful work or entrepreneurship or whatever it is. And this is about 18 million a year. Maybe we get 80 lakh jobs or 8 million jobs, some kind of small job, formal, informal. So there's going to be 10 million people, 1 crore people with nothing to do. And this is very dangerous. And so we're going to have, out of these people coming out, 40, 50% in the next maybe 5, 6 years are going to be out of college. I mean, out of college, you don't want a menial job. You want a job with high aspiration, where you can buy a car, a house, and with no skills. So the whole education system is broken. The education system is tightly controlled. Regulations have stifled it. And the upper middle class and middle class escapes the orbit of this country. There is no Neptune, Uranus, or whatever it is, and goes outside India. So you've got 300,000 people spending maybe 5, 6, 7, $10 billion, I don't know how much money they spend, for higher education for their children outside. And among opinion makers in Delhi and the elite, everybody has got the child out. You ask a bureaucrat where are children so happy is in America. He's not in India. So the people who decide in this country are lying back saying, our children are not going to come back, so it doesn't matter what happens, so we can have a rotten future. So we have a very large social problem. Now, how do we improve the quality? And we must take drastic action. First, the top 100 institutions, and you can rank them, they deserve full freedom to decide what they want without the detailed guidelines of an AICTE or UGC. If you don't trust your top 100 universities, what kind of a country are you? Nowhere in the world are they so controlled. If you are a medical college under the medical council, it's a nightmare. They're so corrupt, they've been captured by vested interest, and it's horrible. Many of the colleges turn out bad graduates, and you don't want to be treated by those people, and good ones get hurt. The thing in India is the bad ones bribe their way through, and the good ones get stuck, and good ones are harassed, and they don't want to do any more. So we have this kind of a challenge. So the top 100 have to be given freedom. The next 300, 400 have to be given full freedom, subject to one or two accreditation issues, and we must allow the free system to come, and you must have free entry for good people like a Pramath, or like Sunil, or maybe like Shiv Nadar or somebody to come up and set up colleges. For these 20 institutions that Prime Minister's office spoke about is an initiative in the right way, but we have no time to lose, because every year we miss, people are going to come back. Now, are we going to form an Ivy League? Is a small part of India's problem. I think it's totally irrelevant to me, because you will have good institutions in this country, but be so inadequate, and most of them may go overseas. And if you don't join here, go join the best institutions around the world. We're a globalized economy today. It's no longer, India is not a constraint for anybody. You can go out and get your education anywhere that you want, so it doesn't matter. The good issue, Raj, like you said, is how do we reform good education to have good quality, because we solve the problem of access to a large degree. So we have a problem at the school level, we have a problem. And like Pramath says, I just want to end by saying, no country on this planet, ever since civilization began, has had this problem that India has at this point of time, large numbers. China only has 16 million babies being produced. They're peaking in education right now. India is not yet peaked. We're going to peak by 2030. And the next 15 years, maybe 15 years, are going to be very bad years unless we get our act together.
All right, so we've added urgency and speed to scale and excellence, and we have one proposition on the floor, which is freedom and deregulation. So let us all start thinking of additional solutions that, pieces of solutions that we can, add to this mixture. And with that, I pass on.
Was it 195 with the other 3, and then 5 years of my experience in education? And trying to figure out, what is a Credit Suisse CEO sitting in the same panel with Mohandas. And anyway, I think actually, when listening to the two of them and listening to what we have done in the education field, I guess there is a perspective which I can provide. About a month ago, I went and visited one of our offices outside of Mumbai, and I had, I think, 30 kids in the age of 13 to 17 spend time with me. They were asking me questions about how am I a CEO, leadership, what do I do, how do I mentor people, how do I motivate them, etc. These kids were not kids from a top college in Mumbai. They were not from a top college, an Ivy League college. These were kids from a slum. Credit Suisse, amongst all the kids, we do a lot of work in philanthropy, and majority of it is in education, actually. We are one of the founding members of Ashoka, and so actually we do believe in the Ivy League education. But having said that, from my perspective, education Ivy League is going to be possible. There will be a public-private partnership. We will get funding. We will get top professors coming back. Ashoka is doing it. I'm sure that Jindal's doing it. Others are doing it. But really, for me, from our perspective, it's providing education for these kids who really want to succeed. So for us, that is by far the biggest issue which we face. But the bigger issue which I face, actually, and this is now as a parent, of two daughters who went to an Ivy League school, actually it's not even about the education in this country or overseas. It's about employment. I think the biggest fear I have is we're going to provide, even if we provide education at the Ivy League level or at a regular college, a BCom or a BA or a BSc, getting a job is just an impossible task right now. I mean, it is amazing. The job creation, actually, I should have been a panel, discussing job creations for this country, and when look at Sunil's topic for this last 2 days, who is India? I mean, I think the people of India require jobs. So education is going to come. We will provide it. I think we have the best talent, but I think it's the stage 2, which is my bigger concern for me, which I'm not sure what we're doing with that. The demographic dividend or demographic disaster is going to be because of people who might get that education but will not be able to put it to use. So I think for me, by far, it's the job which is the biggest issue.
Well, the two areas are codependent.
Yes.
So if you look at economic growth, it is, very intertwined with the availability of talent. And so the two, public-private, have to work together.
We need to work together, yeah.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So I have an advantage. If you are a consultant, you had a ringside view of many universities. So you need not be a part of the university, but you still get to know a lot of what is happening inside. So I'm going to speak with whatever little wisdom that I gathered in terms of what the universities have been doing. A lot have been spoken about the job market. A lot has been spoken about in terms of what is required for India in terms of the youth and their aspirations and other stuff. Now, I have 2-3 contrary views on that. If you look at the basic question, do we need an Ivy League for India? And if I look at what are the reasons as to why we are asking this question, there are a few dimensions to it. One, the simple money that's going out for studying abroad. A study puts it 3 years back at $13 billion US, and that could be definitely more than that in the next 2-3 years. Simple economics says that we are losing a lot of money. And that's not all. Most of the people who go there, and I've interviewed a lot of them, don't come back. And the reason is the environment. They say they go back and they go to these countries, not just for studies, but what attracts them is the environment there and various other things that offers, they don't come back. There is a brain drain that happens because universities are abroad. Indian industry loses talent because of this. It's not just the society that loses, Indian industry loses some of the biggest talent. Today, if you go to Silicon Valley and look at who's doing well, it's not surprising that most of them are from our own IITs here. We did a project for IIT Kharagpur, and we just wanted to find an alumni list, and more than 1,000 alumni from Silicon Valley turned out to be IIT Kharagpur alumni. So we are losing, and that's the loss of Indian industry. Last but not the least, I also believe there is a mismatch in terms of what is being taught in some of these to what is the reality that's happening today. Understand Ivy League and these universities were formed before. Their pedagogy and what they are built and what they do is something that I'm not sure is in tune with what we need. So for many reasons, I do believe we need universities of excellence. We need centers of excellence in this country. And the biggest problem that I see is we are mixing two different issues together. We need mass universities. We need institutions that will provide jobs. We definitely need what I call as skill development and entrepreneurship development universities. But it's not an either-or. It doesn't mean because you need to build that, you cannot have excellence and you cannot have universities that need it. So my view is, if you look at, incidentally, if you look at what are these Ivy League universities and how they got formed, just as a means of statistic, Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, UPenn, Princeton, and Yale formed the so-called Ivy League universities. And how did they get formed? It was a sports league. They got together for a sports league, and finally they formed, the universities got together, and it was an Ivy League. 7 of these were formed during the colonial times in US. It's not something that is modern. Except, I guess, Queen Mary's and Rutgers, all the colonial universities got together and Ivy League was formed. My idea is to say that there are many things that Ivy League is much celebrated upon. I'm not sure that it is completely relevant. We need Ivy League universities, or we need Ivy League-like universities in India, is my view. And then, what do we need in this? Okay, these are my views in this. The format of universities is changing. 700 years back, Oxford University got formed, and the term university got into place. And then we had Cambridge and others who got formed, and that got changed when US came into prominence, and there were different set of universities, massive universities that got formed. I'm not so sure we need all those things today. Learning happened inside classrooms then. Learning happened in libraries then. Today, learnings don't happen that way. To do some research, I don't need books anymore. I can do a lot more with my mobile phone, the kind of research that people used to take years to do even 10 years back. So the research is being done different, teaching is happening, learning is happening in a different manner. Why do we need a format of universities like Ivy League in India? So I would like to start by saying, or I would like to have a discussion around what is the format of universities that we need. And the West is changing. And many of you would know the massive online open courses that are there. And the best of Ivy League, Harvard and Princeton got together and formed edX. edX now has 90 universities. And the format of edX is open. There is no regulation. There is a registration, but it is open source, and anybody can join. And there is even a certificate given by these universities. Learning is not restricted to one specific university in the edX format. They are changing. The people who built Ivy League is changing. We need to look at the format. Two other points I want to make before I close. One is the diversity in India. The Ivy League universities talk about global audience. A bunch of Chinese and a bunch of Indians, suddenly they say it's very difficult to handle because we have a diversified global audience. Look at India. Every university in India has global audience. We have people from across India who are culturally different, whose backgrounds are different, whose aspirations are different, and their ability to learn, everything is different. So we run universities that are termed difficult in the Western world, which are truly global in nature, and hence we need to look at our universities differently. And the third aspect is collaboration seems to be the word in which learning happens. Recently, Punjab University was high up in the rank because their researchers collaborated with others, and what we need to promote in our Ivy League-like universities here is collaboration. More than forming marquee universities, we need marquee universities. What are we doing with these marquee universities? Our IITs don't collaborate. Our IIMs don't collaborate. They are standalone islands of excellence. That's not going to take us anywhere. So unless we bring in collaboration within even the marquee institutions that we definitely need, apart from the mass institutions that we is definitely required, as many other panelists said, we are not going to reach there. So let me conclude by saying we need marquee universities. We need them to collaborate. We need them to look at pedagogy, the format very differently. Technology plays a very big role in that. Apart from that, we need a regulation that will provide for all these things. We need autonomy for these institutions. We need administration that's going to be different from how it is managed today. Last but not the least, I do believe skill development and professional education for employability should act side by side, and we need to build these institutions along with. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've got a lot of items on the menu. I'd just like to add one more, and that is availability of faculty. If we're talking about millions of students going into the university system, where's the faculty going to come from? And we've talked about how we can leverage technology, the MOOCs and so on. But we have two people on the panel here who've had considerable amount of experience trying to hire faculty. So if you could just have a quick word on that, then we'll turn over to the audience for questions.
Yeah, I think, Raj, that in all of these discussions, that is the key constraint. As we think about how we are going to meet the challenge of scale and speed, as you added to this, I think the big challenge is that, again, there is no silver bullet answer. I think the answer lies in leveraging people who want to come back. The answer lies in generating our own timber, as it were, by educating people through the ranks, through the different stages of an academic career. I think it also comes from relaxing the requirement that only PhDs and academics can teach in the classroom. I think education, as you mentioned, has changed, and in a lot of programs that I'm doing now, I'm bringing in practitioners. I think the MOOCs certainly help. I do believe that in India you will need more facilitated and blended MOOCs rather than just MOOCs. And I think finally you need a national mission for getting people in the classroom to teach. And I was not joking when I said that unless we have everybody sitting in the room commit to saying that, listen, we are privileged to have an education and we need to give back, I think everybody sitting in this room can go back into a classroom and teach a bunch of people. And I think small initiatives make sense, but I think we will have to do this on a mass scale if we are going to make this happen.
Raj, we have 1.2 million faculty in our university right now. It's important to get data. It's not that everybody is going to be world class. I think for the top 20, 50 institution, it is a challenge, but not much of a challenge, because they can source faculty from the whole world. They have to pay very well. They must create an environment where they can do research. They may raise money. They may require research funding. I think that is happening in a sort of a way. If you look at the IITs, especially the old IITs, they're getting good applications now. They're solving the challenge. It's not so bad. But they have to be paid better. And they need job for the spouses. So this is happening only in the metro cities where there are jobs for spouses. He's able to hire people. We are able to hire people. So I think that's working out. The key thing is, what do you do about the rest? For that, the only solution is technology. We need to have a technology platform which is available there right now, which can be used by all students and empower every student with a device to use the technology, particularly in the smaller colleges. I think if we're able to do that, we should solve that. And of course, we must create an open system, like Pramath said, to make sure that faculty comes up, remove the bar on compensation, make it flexible, blah, 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 all that. So I think it's a solvable problem, but we need to get some freedom to do that. I come back to freedom because, Raj, you are not in this country. We suffer every single day. Unless you have freedom given to universities to decide their own future, nothing is going to change.
All right. Thank you. With that, let's turn to the audience. And yes, sir.
My name is Krishan Khanna. We are a 24-year-old think tank. You know what Mohandas said is very, very alarming and correct. I agree 100% with him. And although the panel is talking about the Ivy League, and I think you have all the answers, and we will achieve. My question is really for skill building. Somehow civil society in India, we have 47,000 colleges, but only 12,000 vocational training centers. China has 500,000. We say China is good because of the politics, but China has 500,000 skill centers. They train 60 million people. Their GDP is 5 times more than India. So my question is to Mohandas Pai, because I agree 100% with him. What should be done for changing the mindset of civil society? Because everybody, somehow we are pushing the kids to go to college. We are not pushing them to go to a skill center. I mean, today in Europe, in Switzerland, 80% of the kids go to skill centers and 20% go for university education.
The answer to me is in one single thing: social standing. We don't respect our artisans in this country. In every other civilized country, the artisans and creative people, whether they got a degree or not, are respected. We respect the Babu because of a colonial heritage. So what you must do, like Manish Sabharwal has recommended, have a skill university where I get a BSc in plumbing. It doesn't matter. I guess a BSc to be an electrician. It doesn't matter. Because every Indian mother who is poor wants a child to get a degree. They don't understand what the degree means, but they want the certificate because it gives them a social standing. They want to rise above what they are and become part of what they see as successful people. They want English for the kids, and we don't give them English. We suppress the poor in this country by giving them local language and no English. It is suppression by the class which rules, and it's the biggest disgrace in this country. You must give them an operating language like English, and you must allow them, if they want to do something, they BSc in plumbing or something like that. If we're able to create this structure, we'll take care of the social thing. And the next thing which you need to do is make employers responsible in this country. Employers take contract labor, they hire a contractor, they treat the labor very shabbily. We must change the law to make sure if you take a contract labor, you pay 2 times the minimum wage. So you don't have this wage arbitrage. And then you must insist the contract labor comes with certification and make it the law under health and safety standards. So you have to push that and give them some time, 2 or 3 things to 2 or 3 times. And lastly, make sure we pass a law to say 2% of the total wages and employment costs of a corporation is spent on training, internally or outside. So the Indian business class is not bothered about all this, and that's the disaster, barring few who are really understood what it means. And we have to get them involved by a stick and by voluntary action.
Sure. I think I've flogged the need for employment to death. I think we've already spoken about that, skills as well. I think just on this topic of research and topic of the right talent, even though we do believe that people are coming back, I do believe one of the big issues we will also have in getting the right institutions will be funding. And I think if you look at the budgets which colleges have overseas versus what we have here, I think it's going to take time, but it's obviously it's a matter of time where private sector gets involved with the public sector and builds this, and we'll get there. I don't see, like Pramath said, this is not an either or. We will get the Ivy League, we will get the skill set, but because the population is so large, I think the focus on the skill is, again, like I said earlier, is critical for me at least. If you're going to get the youth off the streets, it's going to be via learning a skill and learning a job. Otherwise, you'll go to Oval Maidan in Mumbai on a Friday afternoon, and you'll see hundreds of youngsters playing cricket. That's got to stop, actually.
All right, with that, we would like to close. I'd like to thank the audience for the active participation. I'd like to thank the panelists for putting it all out there. We need ambition, we need scale, we need speed. We need to focus on skills. We need to look at the total picture, including employment. And so this is a complex issue. And as Pramath, what we would like you all to do is also to contribute to the educational effort. And we should all become teachers, as was requested by the panel. So thank you again.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was really thought-provoking. I would request Mr. Sunil Khan Munjal to kindly grace the stage and present mementos to our esteemed panelists. First and foremost, Dr. Pramath Sinha. Can we have a round of applause, please? Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai. Mr. Mihir J. Doshi. Mr. Narayanan Ramaswamy. And our moderator, Mr. Rajendra Srivastava.